Hey kids! Have you ever heard the amazing story of Moses? Buckle up because we're going on a wild ride from palaces to desert adventures. Let's dive in. Once upon a time in Egypt, there was a baby named Moses. Now, Moses was born at a tricky time because the pharaoh who was the king of Egypt was not very nice. He wanted to get rid of all the baby boys born to the Israelites. But guess what? Moses' mom had a clever plan. She put baby Moses in a basket and floated him down the Nile River. Can you imagine floating down a river in a basket? How cool is that? So, there Moses was, floating along when the pharaoh's daughter found him. She felt sorry for the baby, and decided to raise him as her own. So little Moses grew up in the grand palace, living like a prince. But Moses always knew he was different. He was an Israelite, one of God's people. As Moses grew older, he saw the suffering of his people, who were slaves in Egypt. One day, he couldn't take it anymore and did something very brave, but also very dangerous. He stood up to an Egyptian who was hurting an Israelite. After that, Moses had to run away to the desert to escape Pharaoh's anger. In the desert, Moses became a shepherd. He thought he would live a quiet life, but God had other plans. One day, while Moses was taking care of his sheep, he saw a burning bush that wasn't burning up. Whoa, right? And then, God spoke to him from the bush. God told Moses to go back to Egypt and free the Israelites from slavery. Moses was scared, but with God's help, he faced Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." Pharaoh said no many times, but God sent plagues to Egypt until Pharaoh finally agreed. Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt and they crossed the Red Sea with a miracle. The waters parted so they could walk on dry land. Can you picture that? But the journey wasn't over yet. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. During that time, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. These were rules to help the people live good lives. Finally, Moses led them to the edge of the Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So that's the story of Moses. From a baby in a basket to the leader of a great nation, Moses showed us that with faith and courage we can overcome any challenge. Remember, you can be brave and kind, just like Moses. Thanks for joining me on this epic adventure, kids. See you next time. Bye.